I can have your attention. If I don't have your attention, let me get your attention. Ladies and gentlemen.
The FirstDownLine.com podcast.
The FirstDownLine.com podcast.
Looks like they're going to measure here. Do you think they got the first down?
Now remember that the first down line is not official.
Your official enough download for the latest in sports and technology.
Download it.
FirstDownLine.com podcast. Thanks for joining us, the inaugural episode. I am Ryan. He is Travis. Very excited to be with you at FirstDownLine.com. Something we've wanted to do for a very long time. Launch the website, talk about sports and technology, give you a chance to be a part of the conversation, and the podcast is a great way to do that. We're going to have not only Travis and myself on the podcast from time to time. Brett A. Summers, who's writing for us now, will be joining us occasionally. We'll have different guests, including today. We'll have some of our guests who you may or may not have heard from already at FirstDownLine.com. We'll talk to Mike Hashey, who is the CEO and executive producer of eggstudios.ca. They're the ones who made this awesome video that you can see right now at FirstDownLine.com. Also, we'll talk with the Portland Trailblazers and some people. Man, I'm excited. I mean, this is Travis and I have known each other quite a while, dude. It's fun to kind of take all of our side conversations that we've had for years and bring them out on a video podcast.
All of the years of quarreling and debating about sports and technology and why the earth that we live on is just so great.
And sometimes awful, since he is the epitome of pessimism in sports.
Well, I'm a Philadelphia fan, so let's just get that out in the open now. So there will be much of a pessimistic sentiment from my point of view. And I also root for Oregon, and their recent failures have also kind of driven me mad the last couple of years.
But it's late April, and already the Phillies are done. I mean, really?
Well, I mean,
already?
they were done in spring training, let's be honest.
You're killing me.
Losing his franchise in history of sports, but yes.
But yet your only Philly championship has come from in his
the Philadelphia Phillies, that's correct.
Someday we'll have him either right or we'll share a story about how he cursed Philadelphia sports for a really long time.
Yeah.
Well, we do challenge you to bring out the sticks. That's something that helps you join the conversation by tweeting us at FirstDownLine. What we want to know between now and our next podcast episode, the NHL and NBA playoffs are going to be in very full swing. They've already started. We want to know what technological advances, enhancements, what are things that you notice that combine sports and technology with some of the NBA and NBA broadcasts. And coming up later in the podcast, this edition, we're going to talk about our top 5 on-screen graphic moments, our milestones. We're going to give you our top 5. Probably disagree with a couple between each other.
Well, I mean, there's been so many innovations in sports. I think that the evolution of the sports broadcast, you're really going to see a lot of different things that have come along that have made the viewer experience enhanced. So we'll talk about those coming up later on, and obviously First Down Line is already off and running, so we'll talk about those other topics.
Where will that be in the top 5? That'll be kind of cool. You also are going to share an app, which I'm pretty stoked about too, that's been around for a couple years, and you just found out about what?
Less than 14 hours ago, actually. So
how cool is that? So we'll share that with you too. You can find all the show notes at FirstDownLine.com. Also, eventually, we'll get this thing up on iTunes, subscribing. If you have a podcast app, we'll try to make sure that you can put our feed into your app so that you can get to us each week. So we're very late to the game with the NCAA tournament because of when the website launched. It actually launched the day after the national championship game. Weird situation with me. He's a Philadelphia fan. I'm all over the board, right? Nationwide.
You're a violator of several sports allegiance rules.
It's not even true. It's not even true.
If you were to map out your geographical rooting interest, I think the general public would agree with me, but
probably. I mean, I got
one of many debates.
I've admitted this on the site. I'm a Broncos fan, so there I'm in the Rocky Mountain region. But I also grew up as a Kentucky basketball fan.
Okay.
And had a lot of success.
That's like 2,000 miles, but keep going.
Yeah, it's all the way across the U.S. From one mountain range to the other mountain range. Right. But they lose to Connecticut. UConn sweeps the men's and women's. But during the national championship broadcast on CBS, they had other feeds called Teamcast. And this was something that was started with the BCS National Championship game by ESPN. They called it MegaCast. All the different channels in the network were doing tweet-alongs, if you will. They had like Reese Davis in like a lounge with other players.
Yeah, interactive.
What did you tune in to any of those channels?
Yeah, I mean, the Teamcast is great because obviously they segmented the two teams for the rooting interest. You know, you had partial bias on one channel and partial bias on the other. So I think that's nice from the fans' perspective. You don't have to listen to non-bias, or you listen to your bias announcers instead of somebody like Joe Buck that just hates everybody apparently. But yeah, I think that was cool, and you know, there was always the feed there, of course, on CBS for the actual game, with the other channels, which were, I believe, TBS was one of them.
Yeah, and then either TNT or True TV.
Right.
But I watched the UK broadcast for the first two segments because they do every 4 with the timeouts. And then my buddy, who's a Wisconsin fan, he was also watching they did this for the semifinals too. And Wisconsin, he loves Wayne Larrivee. I love Wayne Larrivee, the voice of the Packers. But he said he only could do it for about 4 minutes or so too, and then he switched it off as well. So I think Teamcast is a great addition. I love the MegaCast as far as giving people an option, especially because look at the college football world, right? Florida State, Auburn, you may not give a rat's ass about one team or the other, but then you can kind of see what you want.
Not Auburn. I'm not particularly fond
Why is
of
that?
the Auburn Tigers. Circa
Why is that?
2010.
Yeah,
or 11.
Cam Newton, not your buddy.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
That's the Ducks. We're both Oregon alums, so I tell you what, we have reasons not to like Auburn. Florida State wins that whole thing, and you could tune in. Like I loved on the ESPN3, you could listen to the radio calls synced up with.
And I think that would be a brilliant addition to those teamcasts. Is having the actual radio personalities of the teams. That they're broadcasting for. I mean, I know myself, if I'm watching a Phillies game on TV, I'll turn it on to the radio on my phone just so I don't have to listen to the ESPN announcers or somebody like that. It's tricky with the DVR to get it synced up just right. Pause it, wait, play, pause, play, wait, rewind, play. Okay, good, we're good. So that you sync it up so that they match and you're not getting spoilers from the radio. But
yeah, and sometimes you can never get them because I think the audio is well ahead or something. You can't pause on your phone.
Right.
It's kind of annoying because I'm with you, but I'm also a radio guy, so that makes sense too. I think Teamcast probably would have been better served actually having the home team. Tom Leach on the Kentucky broadcast would have been way cooler. They had a guy from a TV station in Lexington, and then Rex Chapman, former Wildcat, who was doing the Kentucky side. And while that was that home-grown feel that you were talking about, I think that's something they could have done differently. So what do you think? You can tweet us, hashtag #TechInSports, and definitely in addition to letting us know technological things you see during the NBA and NHL playoffs, be sure to let us know what did you think of Teamcast, even though it might be a little bit out of your mind since this is launching a couple weeks after the national championship game. One thing that has taken the internet by storm, and we had a chance to talk to Mike Hashey, who is the CEO and executive producer of Egg Studios, which is a Canadian company, Nova Scotia in Halifax, where the Mooseheads play in the CHL. They did one of these cool on-ice pre-game deals, and it was really, really neat. The video's posted at FirstDownLine.com.
Really cool. You
Evolution,
should check it out.
dude.
Yeah, it's 3D imagery displayed on top of the ice. I mean, perfect surface for it. Obviously, it's a white back there. Really cool stuff, though. I mean, it's worth taking 3 minutes of your time to check it out. It's something that's definitely revolutionary, never before seen. In terms of pregame introductions, or any sort of festivities that take place during a game.
We're going to play back a quick piece of the conversation we had with Mike Hashey, and then we'll talk a little bit about pregame shows and how this has changed in the thing.
We have a couple in our old school classrooms. No, the technology for 3D projection mapping is pretty much universal. It either requires a piece of software that will jam all your projectors together to make one super screen. If you think about any of the sports bars that are out there with multiple screens becoming one big huge screen, that's a very similar process. Then you have a perfect backdrop. It's generally a white ice surface if we're doing hockey, and if it's a floor like in the NBA basketball, you can also project nicely on that. Darker surface used for this particular arena because of its size. We use projectors, and these were all 10K projectors. So, something depending upon how techy everybody out there is, it is a fairly large projector, but it's also not the biggest as they come. So 10,000 lumens. So if you think about that, they're pretty heavy projectors, machines, so they have to go up and be rigged into the Metro Center here in Halifax. So we had to, rig them to the various catwalks and then tie them all together into our system, into our software. And then that all blends together into one super screen, and then we project our 3D presentation or show from there. So it's the entry into something like this is pretty significant. So do you rent the projectors, or do you put the infrastructure in? And I think that moving forward, a lot of different teams, as they change from your traditional jumbotron methods of displaying media or boards, as you see in many of the bigger teams.
It's not as easy as just, I can project anything on the ice surface, because there still are those angles and all kinds of other alignments and things you do even through the software. And knowing the software, just like people who know our 3D software, there are people who know the software that runs the systems that join the projections together. And of course, people can Google this too, 3D projection mapping. There's some amazing examples out there around the world, and even the Sochi Olympics. People would have seen that in the opening and closing ceremonies. Lots of stuff happening on the floor surfaces there too. So starting to become something more of a trend, I see. And for us, doing this arena on this scale gave us the ability to showcase what we can do here at EGG. And to me, even what we did there is really the base of where you could go by, transforming that ice surface into some really cool things, versus just a light show. More stuff like the ice cracking in that water, and maybe even having a little motion, action in there as well, so that it could even track to hockey players and or other performers. That's all part of the whole future of this kind of technology, and pre-game shows or just entertaining spectacles of sorts for people in the 3D projection mapping space.
Yeah, so some great words there from Mike. I think it really kind of shows you the advancements in technology, what we're going to be looking at in the future, what we have now, but those kinds of things too, those pre-game intros, any kind of in-between things, intermission, kind of things that keep the regular fan, maybe the novice fan that doesn't know as much about the game, keeps them entertained. I mean, that'll keep them coming back for more too. So I'm sure there's probably a substantial amount of people that will go to a game just to see that, in fact. So
rumor had it, as we were recording this, entering the weekend with the playoffs for the Halifax club, they were going to make tweaks to it, playoff edition. I mean, the Mooseheads won the Memorial Cup just a year ago. So if they make that kind of run, as we mentioned in the interview that you can listen to at FirstDownline.com, what could they do to add on to it? Add the Memorial Cup clips or something cool like that. The Cleveland Cavaliers did something similar to this. Mike also alluded to that, but they bring that heritage of the team in there, which apparently if Ilgauskas is the patriarch of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That's who I think of when I think Cleveland Cavaliers history is Ilgauskas. Yeah.
I mean, we could go into the last 20 minutes of the podcast saying, hey, great Cleveland Cavaliers, you go first. I mean, it's not a good deal, but I love
the audience dropped.
I love pregame shows. I always have. In fact, this is a nerd moment for me, but back in the day, I wanted to remake like the Bulls introductions.
I was just about to allude to that.
Yeah, serious, remember that? And so I found a way to do it in PowerPoint to time them all out. I was super nerdy. Yeah. But in the Portland Trailblazers at the Rose Garden, and we're out on the West Coast, so this is one of the ones that I have seen, they put caricatures of the players down on the floor with spotlights and things like that. And I thought that was super cool. But now with 3D projection, and Mike says that's the tip of the iceberg, what we've seen so far. Right. No pun intended, because it's on ice.
Iceberg. Sorry. I get it.
So that's pretty cool. Speaking of the Blazers, too, they're taking technology into the realm of fan interaction with a new contest. NBA says, hey, you have to get a new court every 10 years. So they decided, well, why don't we leave the design up to some of the people? And we had a chance to talk to a couple of guys with the Portland Trailblazers as their marketing team sat down with us, Dwayne Hankins and TJ Ansley. So let's hear from them really quick.
Our court has been coming up on 10 years old, and the NBA requires that you replace the court after 10 years. So we started having discussions with Adidas to help us mock up some designs of the court, and then we got to the point where they had laid out all these different really great designs, but we wanted to take them and sort of mix and match what the designs were. And then knowing that we had those parameters in place, we thought, well, this would be a good idea to bring to the fans to give them all the choices, and then come up with some different court designs. While that was happening, we were also talking with Moda Health, our partner, and we're coming up on a very important deadline for the healthcare exchange, which was March 31st. The same date our court is due to the NBA for their their approval process to get painted for next season. So in order to kind of allow our fans to get in and allow Moda Health to get some data leads, it ended up being kind of a perfect storm to get them behind the contest. Their logo obviously is on the court floor, so it made a good match there. And here in Portland, I think it's very tough to make that decision without getting our fan feedback, because that team is theirs, not ours.
I think with all the iterations of the court, there were 185,000 different combinations that we could have done. So it was all within the NBA guidelines. We weren't going to give free reign to make the court purple or blue or anything like that. So it's just having all those different combinations and making sure that we're comfortable with the final outcome, which I think we are.
I think it'll likely be FanFest by the time it's fans will first see it. I mean, we could obviously we could announce the winning court now, but that wouldn't do it justice based on them actually seeing it with their own eyes. So FanFest, which is usually in early October, training camp's begun at that point. It's the first time the players get to see the new team, so it might as well be the first time they get to see the new court.
TJ Ansley, Dwayne Hankins talking about the Portland Trail Blazers court redesign fan contest. He talked about like 185,000 combinations. Think about if you could
Which is actually the number of Duck uniform combinations just for the first 3 weeks of the season.
It's interesting you bring up Oregon, because the NBA doesn't let teams go as crazy as when Oregon debuted the Matthew Knight Arena, Pat Kilkenny floor design. But we've seen other colleges go a little berserk with their designs. Meanwhile, teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, they've done the shadowing in or outside of the arc or whatever they did when they did their floor redesign. When talking to them off camera, that was one of the things they kept bringing up, was other teams have kind of done different things, but which teams had let their fans pick. Center floor opening night for Milwaukee, they had the season ticket holders' names on the center line. It was a removable graphic. If you could redesign one element to any of your favorite teams' playing surfaces, what would you do? Like, are we ever going to see, colors in the ice or anything like that? I think that would be kind of berserk.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting idea, because, so many sports have those traditional layouts. I mean, some sports have changed the way their fields or respective venues look. I mean, take hockey, for example. They moved their lines back. They made the trapezoid, that kind of thing. But in terms of aesthetic differences from what we see now, I mean, who knows? I mean, the uniforms are ever changing. The logos are ever changing. Why wouldn't the playing surface be ever changing as well? I could picture basketball courts with a solid filled-in three-point line, or obviously they have the solid filled-in key now, but some things can be too distracting. But
like trees on your court. Have you ever seen the blue turf or the red turf at
Boise State has the blue turf. Eastern Washington has the red turf.
Have you seen any of those?
Yeah, of course.
In person though?
Not in person.
Yeah, I don't know. I finally saw the blue turf last year. And it's pretty cool when you walk in, I'm not going to lie. But as far as that, then you don't really notice that it's blue turf anymore. I'm talking like weird things. Like the first time someone does something different to hockey, I think I've seen pink ice for like cancer awareness, breast cancer awareness days. Anyway, that's a good question too. You can tweet us at FirstDownLine, #TechInSports. What's one of the cool things you'd do to one of your favorite teams' playing surfaces if you had the chance? And be sure to check out the interview with the Blazers talking about that court redesign. Going to unleash the winner. They had a fan contest, 3 finalists, one person won, but they're not going to name and show off the design of the winner until FanFest, which comes up closer to the season. A couple other things you can read. Packers using preventative measures to protect athletes, Catapult Sports, among other companies, just starting to find ways to use technology to make sure players don't get hurt by noticing if they're fatigued during practice, and so they can take them out for a play or two, or make sure that they rest the rest of the practice.
Right.
I think it's a good use of technology.
It is. The interesting thing to see will be how that affects playing time. I mean, if this monitor thing says you can't go back in for 2 plays because Aaron Rodgers had to scramble for 13 yards on the last play, we'll see how well that is utilized.
Are you saying he might go back to the sideline and be like, Mike, discount
sorry.
double check.
I'm sorry.
I want to recheck my technology thing. I don't know what it's even called. It's on the website. You can check that out. Brett A. Summers wrote that article. And then the Xbox, you have Xbox One.
Correct.
Is it as awesome as people think?
Of course it is.
Okay.
Why would it not be?
Have you got Kinect Sports
I
Rivals yet?
played the demo of Kinect Sports Rival, and it's exactly how the previous Kinect versions of sports games would work. You're using your body to control your on-screen avatar, but what you're alluding to, of course, is the post that you had on earlier in the week about the island predicting its own future in the Xbox.
Okay, I'm a Michael Bay freak. Like, explosions! Like, that's what he's good at, right? Well, he did the island, Ewan McGregor, and then you have Scarlett Johansson. Not a bad starring cast there. And there's a scene where they're playing themselves, basically. Their avatars are them fighting each other MMA style inside this Xbox grid. It was branded. It was product placement. Yeah. This was 2005. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was like a Dave & Buster's on steroids or something.
It was 10 years ago. They knew that this was coming out. They're like, we're going to make the Kinect and we're going to tease it in the island. Yeah. Dave & Buster's, actually, that would be really cool. If they could get a full body projection
avatar, I think that's I think, you know, what you're seeing in the Xbox technology, you will see in arcades and interactive places, I'm sure, down the road.
There's a lot of things you will see me do in my life, Travis. One thing will not be fighting in an octagon. So if I could just do that in a Dave & Buster's, that would be pretty cool. So check those stories out. They're at FirstDownLine.com. You can go there and, again, interact with us, too, on Twitter, FirstDownLine. One thing that we did post, too, the Vancouver Sun up in British Columbia showed how EA Sports does the scanning of the athletes with a 12-camera, 180-degree view. And so the Kinect scans your face in, but just your face, with a one-camera shot. This is going 12, which is pretty cool. So
yeah, and as an avid video game player, I can definitely testify that the likenesses of the athletes in today's sports games are incredible. I mean, you know, it's even more enhanced with better graphics in the newer generation systems. But you know, I play a lot of FIFA, and seeing Cristiano Ronaldo, I couldn't tell the difference between a replay of a Real Madrid game.
Do you have a man crush on Ronaldo?
I'm not going to say he's a good-looking guy, but you can't deny he's a good-looking guy. Okay, this has gone sideways.
Count it down! FirstDownLine.com. Top 5.
All right, top 5. First top 5 list we're going to do on the podcast. And since First Down Line is named after one of the biggest technological advancements in all of sports enjoyment history, we figured we'd do our top 5 live on-screen graphic milestones. Now, to launch the whole website rather, we did our top 7 just sports and technology milestones. What we decided to do was live and on-screen graphics. So we talked about maybe like the axis that ESPN uses to rotate for highlights and analysis. Well, we felt that was a little bit too after the fact. We're looking for, while you're watching the game, in that moment of time, what our top 5 are.
What shows up on the screen that enhances the viewer's experience, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So. Live. So we're gonna put First Down Line in here, but is it gonna be number 1? I don't know. What do you have for your number 5?
So starting out at number 5, I believe telestration is one of the best improvements.
Here's a guy.
Of course, we all know John Madden with the telestrator circling the guy. Guy goes from point A to point B. Boom. Yeah. Correct. So I think that's obviously, you know, from a sports fan perspective, being able to see the layout of a play or see how it went down, being able to analyze it and seeing, routes run by a receiver maybe, or, a shot blocked in hockey, how it deflects into the corner and the two defensemen converge. Here's the lines, the two telestration lines showing this. So, I mean, I think that was definitely one of the great additions to television broadcast for sports.
I left that one off my top 5. I instead went number 5, Olympic enhancements, and this has to do with a lot of the things that we saw just recently in the Winter Olympics with the ghost shadowy skiers. I thought that was one of the coolest things, and we've seen all sorts of enhancements to the Olympic coverage, whether it's lane designations or whatever.
Right. That particular feature called simulcast actually takes an overlay of a previous racer's run, and it puts it side by side with the last racer that just ran on the screen. So you could see technically how they perform better or worse than the other racer on the screen.
And like the skiing example, it was you could see that moment where the
Right.
tide churned and
he
the
lost
person
his edge here.
Yeah.
He's off course. The other
So-
guy takes the lead.
Olympics have just been crazy with a lot of enhancements. They also use the simulcast, shadowcast, simulcast.
Simulcast
Okay.
is the one, and then they also use a Stro Motion is what it's
Strow
called.
motion. They use that to chart the combine too, the NFL combine 40-yard dashes. Saw Rich Eisen getting burnt by Jadeveon Clowney and such an offensive
felt
line.
good.
I'm gonna go with my number 4 as the K zone. Did that one hit number 4 for you as well?
I have it higher on my list,
Okay.
honestly. I mean, I'm a baseball guy, and I think that makes watching a game so much more appealing if you can see where the pitch was located in the zone, always off the plate, or was it a strike? I mean, I think that makes it a lot more entertaining to be able to be an umpire yourself and use that on screen. So,
I think because I'm more of a fan of a different sport that I'm going to put number 3 than you are. Maybe that's where the difference is. But I will say, I was watching opening day baseball this year, and ESPN watching Cubs and Pirates, one of the only games that you hope the Cubs will win because then they'll be 1-0. They put the K zone up, but then they called it the hot zone or something like that. And they put up the percentages that the batter has in 9 different sections of the zone, plus just on the outside. And then they left it on for the whole at bat. So if they were 350 and above, it was lit up red, and if they were 250 or below, it was blue, and then they left the in-between blank. And I thought that was a really cool enhancement because they left it on for the entire sequence. I do agree with you, though. I do like when a pitch maybe goes a little bit low and the crowd jeers.
Yeah.
You're like, no, and it was the
well,
right
and it
call.
has other applications, of course, too. I mean, the location of the pitch, they'll show a replay. Here's where the catcher spotted it. Here's where the pitch ended up, and they'll show you a little yellow circle. He missed here. Obviously, that's why the guy hit a 3-run homer, is that he left it middle in instead of down and away. So
that was your number 3. Then what was your number 4?
I actually did lean with you on this racing phenomenon.
Oh, so we're
known
just
as NASCAR.
flip-flopped.
Yeah, I did put it in there because I do believe NASCAR does have a lot of value in their on-screen technology in terms of the displays they have, the pinpointing of the racer. I mean, you know more about it than I do.
Well, I think NASCAR's popularity has enhanced because a lot of the TV coverage has improved. So I remember watching NASCAR in the 90s when it was on TNN. And you got some in-car cameras, but other than that...
Which is the most appropriate channel for NASCAR.
It really was.
Does TNN still even exist?
I think TNN became Spike, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
Anyway.
Which is not exactly a good
well,
transition
I mean,
either.
they went away from the Nashville network, then they went to TNN, and then it was had nothing to do with the Nashville
man.
network anymore.
Okay.
But the point was, I think that had a way to bring in casual viewers because it was no longer just watching them go around in circles. You got into the pits a little bit better. You got to see the difference. Jeff Gordon gets in and he gets out. He came in at number 26. Now he's out at 20, so it's a +6, and it shows the difference in there. Split screens and the tracking of the cars with the looks like dialogue boxes in a comic where it has a little thing, and they've now expanded that to be in other sports like NFL games and things like that. So
Really enhances the experience of watching guys drive around in circles.
I'm sorry.
So,
I think NASCAR is fascinating. If they did not have the season end the same time that the NFL starts, I would be more into it, but then I lose focus by the end of the year. My number 2, the first down line. It's not going to be number 1 on my list. First down line changed things for the television experience when it comes to football more than almost anything else. We're talking about graphics only. Instant replay was by far the number 1 enhancement for all sports and technology, but when it comes to on-screen graphics, this first down line was definitely up there at number 2 for me.
Yeah, it's a game changer, obviously. It made things so much easier in terms of being able to tell whether or not a player was going to make a first down or not. I mean, that's a crucial moment in any game, a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4. You need to get to that first down mark. Viewer doesn't know in terms of depth where a player is maybe on the field. There's always maybe a slight camera angle tilt that you see at any given time during a football broadcast. So that first down line helps. And even on the replays nowadays, you'll even notice from the back end zone cameras, they'll have that first down line running, perpendicular to the viewing angle that you're seeing there. So that's kind of cool too, because even from that, you lose that depth from that angle of the end zone, but you can still see a player make a first down on a replay. So
I think that I wanted to put Fox Tracks in the top 5. Turns out that Fox Tracks actually had an impact on the first down line. In fact, the technology that was used for Fox Track, the little streak behind the puck back in the mid-'90s with hockey, when Fox got part of the hockey contract, ended up becoming the first down.
Yeah, the company Sport Vision created it, and
you had a great name for it, too. Actually, I think they call it the 1st and 10 line.
1st and 10 line is
But
what
either
they
way,
officially call it.
The first down line, you inspired us. Certainly.
Right, yes. And of course, everybody remembers the glowing hockey puck from 1996. No.
I think a lot of people do. I think Fox Tracks was a bust to most people.
It was ahead of its time, that's for sure.
I just like how it switched when it was a hard slap shot was red.
The red comet trail, that's right, yeah.
All right, what's the number one?
Number one, and I think we both agree on this, is the on-screen score. I think the display of current score, current count, whatever it is, whatever's going on currently in the game at that time, how much time's left on the clock, it's vital to knowing whether or not you want to watch the game, but also what's going on in the game. I mean, for the longest time, the sports broadcast on television didn't have that, and now we kind of take it for granted, but it makes all the difference in the world when you're watching a game.
Yeah, I was thinking of two instances. One, when I first saw it in a football game, I thought it was brilliant because I'd watch it a lot. I was 10, 11, 12 when it first showed up on like 94, 95, 96. And my dad would always pop in, what's the score? What's the score? And you don't remember, you don't know. Well, now it was easier.
Now it's, shut up, Dad, it's on the screen.
Yeah, it's right there, dude. But also I remember basketball. I remember watching like the Sonics Bulls in 96 in the finals, and they'd go down the floor, someone would score, and then it'd pop up like NBA Jam style, like right about here on your screen. Now you don't have to worry about that either. Sometimes I think graphics get a little bit too busy in broadcast nowadays, but at the same time, they're called bug boxes. I've ran those things for broadcasts before, and they're a whole lot of fun. So I still don't like, though, like in the corner of the screen, how TNT will preview, like, the Lakers Bulls, and here comes Kobe, like, dunking or something in the corner.
Or somebody from, whatever their TNT shows, Nash and somebody.
They're all like back to back, like, hey.
FirstDownline.com. Downloads.
I do want, we're so out of time, but share the app that you found because I think people are going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you can pull it up too on the phone, we'll show people what it'll look like.
Yeah, so I just discovered this today. This is an application called Thooz, and they label it Thooz Sports. And what it is, essentially, is a sports game rating for each of the ongoing events. So I'll try to get it up so you can see it here on the camera. But basically, this is the app, and what it does essentially is it takes a list of all of the games going on at the current moment, and it rates them with a circular score and a heat map, basically, from 1 to 100 on how important the game is or what's going on in terms of its excitement level. So obviously, if a game's in the bottom of the ninth inning in baseball, that'll be in the 90s, one-run lead, something like that. A football game in the last 2 minutes, they'll
like earlier
increase the rating.
In the NHL playoffs, the Blues and the Blackhawks went to triple overtime. Like that went 96. It was red
game
hot.
Finished at 100 because it was a triple overtime game.
I mean, I think that's a really cool app. And my favorite part of it, too, I've been looking for an app for a long time that will show you the TV station that it's on.
And that is a great thing. You can actually pre-program in the city and state that you live in, and you can actually pick your network that you're operating with, Charter, DirecTV, Cox Cable, Comcast, whatever, and it'll actually give you the channel layout. So if you want to find out what channel a game is on at that current moment, it'll give you the list of the channel.
Did you say the thing about the Sling Box, too?
Yeah, and if you have a Sling Box, which is a popular contraption that allows you to watch your television
We were
everywhere.
early adopters, Sling.
Yeah, that's right.
We had the
first.
We had the
Send us another
original
one.
with all the words on the front.
If you have a Sling Box, it allows you to bring in your Sling player feed from the click of a button. So
even find the most convenient sports bar. So good stuff, Travis, buddy. I've been looking forward to doing a podcast with you for a long time. He's Travis. I'm Ryan. Be sure to tweet us at FirstDownline. Anything you see during the NHL, NBA playoffs that you think should get our attention for technological reasons, use the hashtag TechInSports, TECHIN Sports. For Travis, I'm Ryan. Thanks a lot for joining us. Be sure to join us in 2 weeks from now. We'll have another podcast at FirstDownline.com.
That's it for the FirstDownline.com podcast. Check out more at our webpage at FirstDownline.com.